Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down Chapter 179, Decisive Battle in Alubarna.
And what a title! After all this time, all the disparate pieces of the puzzle are finally converging on one single location. It's the culmination of everything we've seen since Whiskey Peak. The rebellion, Baroque works, the Straw Hats, the Marines. It's all about to collide.
They really are, but before we get to the massive clash, we have to talk about the hook. We see it. Crocodile has stabbed Luffy clean through.
The chapter opens with this shocking image, and Oda doesn't pull the punch. It's not a cutaway, it's not implied. We see the golden hook, Luffy's shocked face, and the spray of blood. It's an image designed to make your heart stop.
My heart did stop. He just got done with the poison hook. He was dehydrated, and now this. You're sitting there thinking, how? How does he possibly come back from this? It feels so final. This isn't Arlong biting his shoulder. This is a warlord of the sea impaling him through the chest.
And it's through the water bottle around his neck. It's a devastating, seemingly final blow. The one tool he brought to the fight, the one weakness he found, is now just another part of his defeat. It's a beautifully tragic piece of imagery.
You think it's over, and then, because this is One Piece, that exact instrument of defeat becomes the one thing that lets Luffy fight back. That leaking water is the entire key. Oda is just a master of setup and payoff. He plants these seeds so perfectly that when they bloom, it feels both surprising and inevitable. If you love seeing those threads come together, you should probably stick with us on this journey. A follow on the channel is like finding an oasis in the desert. It just makes everything better.
A very apt metaphor. But before we get to that oasis, let's start with the rest of the crew who are currently riding a giant crab.
Right, they're on their way to Alubarna, and the mood is just so tense you could cut it with one of Zoro's swords. Everyone is trying to distract themselves from the fact that Luffy is fighting a warlord alone. This isn't like Arlong Park where they all charged in together. This time they had to trust Luffy to handle it, and that trust is being stretched to its absolute limit.
It manifests in different ways for everyone. Usopp is doing what he does best, telling an absolutely terrified Chopper some of his grand lies.
This time telling him that shrimp are actually just crabs. It's so perfectly Usopp to try and diffuse tension with a completely absurd story. And Chopper, bless him, is buying every word.
It's more than just a gag, though. This is Usopp's unique form of care. He sees the youngest, most impressionable member of the crew panicking, and he knows he can't fight his fear with logic, so he fights it with absurdity. He creates this little pocket of nonsense to distract Chopper from the horrifying reality of their situation. It's the same way he told Kaya stories to keep her spirits up. His lies are a shield.
That's a great point. He's not lying to be a coward, he's lying to be brave for someone else. And man, Chopper's little face just lighting up thinking he's learned some incredible zoological secret. It's the bit of lightheartedness you need before the chapter just crushes you.
Meanwhile, Zoro is dealing with it the only way he knows. He's training by lifting Matsuje the camel on one of his katanas.
Which is just the most Zoro response imaginable. Faced with overwhelming anxiety about his captain, time for some gains. It's pure unfiltered Zoro logic. I feel powerless. The solution to powerlessness is to become more powerful. He can't punch Crocodile from here, but he can lift a camel, so that's what he's going to do.
It's a direct callback to his oath after his defeat by Mihawk. His entire existence is now predicated on never losing again and on becoming strong enough to support the man who will be the king of the pirates. He feels that promise slipping away, feels his own weakness in not being there with Luffy, so he defaults to the only solution he has: train harder.
But Nami, ever the pragmatist, points out he's probably just wasting his energy before the real fight. She's looking at the bigger picture. She knows they're about to run into an army of Baroque Works agents, and she needs her swordsmen at 100%.
And that's when Sanji steps in. He's leaning against the crab, looking cool as a cucumber, but his words are anything but.
He doesn't defend Zoro's training, he cuts right to the heart of it.
He does. He tells Nami to leave him alone because everyone has to do something to push away the thought of what's happening to Luffy. It's this incredible moment of insight from Sanji. He sees exactly what Zoro is doing because he's feeling the exact same thing. And then he looks right at Zoro and says it.
He calls him scared. He says Zoro is terrified that Luffy might lose. And Zoro just snaps. Not just because it's an insult from Sanji, but because it's true. It's like Sanji held up a mirror and Zoro hated what he saw. He hates that vulnerability in himself. So he lashes out. He calls him beauty brows, Sanji calls him a moss head, and they're about to throw down right there on top of the crab.
This isn't one of their usual gags. You can feel the fear behind it. When they argue over who's the better hunter or some other nonsense, it's funny. This is raw. They're not fighting over something stupid. They're fighting because they're terrified for their captain and they don't know how to process it. It's the only language they have to express that shared anxiety without admitting it out loud.
Exactly. It's their coping mechanism. It's like two kettle drums of anxiety just banging against each other. And for all their rivalry, this moment shows how deeply they understand one another. Sanji knew exactly what to say to get under Zoro's skin because he's feeling the same damn thing. He's just better at hiding it behind a suave exterior.
And of course, Nami just walks up and punches both of them, ending it immediately. She is the absolute anchor of this crew's sanity sometimes. She doesn't have time for their macho posturing when the fate of a country is on the line.
She's the big sister of the crew, 100%. She just bops them both on the head and tells them to knock it off. No grand speech, just a fist and a command. And it works. Instantly, they're both on the ground with lumps on their heads, the tension broken.
She really is. And she extends that to Vivi, too. Vivi tries to reassure everyone that Luffy is fine, putting on a brave face for her country. She's reverting to her role as the princess, the leader who has to project confidence for her people, which in this case is the Straw Hats.
But Nami sees right through it. She gives her a light little punch on the head and tells her to just focus on the rebellion. She's essentially saying, you have enough to worry about. Let us carry the burden of worrying for our captain.
It's a moment of profound understanding. Nami is giving Vivi permission to not have to be the strong princess for 5 seconds and to let her found family shoulder some of that weight. Vivi has been carrying the entire kingdom on her shoulders for months. Nami is the first person to tell her, it's okay. You can put some of that down. We've got this part.
That's what it's all about. That's the bond. It's one of my favorite Nami moments in the entire arc. It shows how much she's grown from the isolated, untrusting thief we met in Orangetown. Now she's the emotional core of the group. Oh, and she officially names the crab Hasami, which I think just means claws or pincers.
A very practical name, fitting for Nami. No grand titles, just a simple, descriptive name for a tool that's helping them.
While all this is happening on the crab, we get a quick check-in at Yuba.
And it's a moment of pure, unadulterated hope. Toto, after all this time digging, after we saw him broken and defeated just a few chapters ago, finally strikes water, a real gusher.
The look on his face, it's just pure relief and joy. We've seen this old man digging in the dust day after day under a relentless sun, holding on to a promise he made to the king and to his son, Koza. Everyone else gave up and left, but he stayed. And in this moment, he's vindicated. He did it. He found water for his town. He kept his promise.
It's the ultimate symbol of perseverance. In a land defined by Crocodile's manufactured drought, one man's stubborn hope creates an oasis. It feels like a turning point, a sign that the will of the people can overcome the tyranny of a warlord.
And then Oda just rips the rug out from under you. It's so cruel.
He immediately undercuts it. In the distance, we see the sandstorm that Crocodile is creating. A colossal, unnatural storm is heading right for Yuba.
He doesn't even know. He's smiling, laughing, covered in mud and water, thinking he's saved his home, and this unnatural disaster is bearing down on him to erase it all. It's not just a storm, it's a manifestation of Crocodile's power. It's an act of targeted despair.
It's a perfect illustration of Crocodile's influence. He doesn't just defeat people, he extinguishes hope on a national scale. He lets Todo have his tiny victory, his moment of triumph, only to immediately demonstrate that it's meaningless in the face of his overwhelming power. It's the act of a true sociopath.
Which brings us to the man himself, back to the fight with Luffy.
And now we see the aftermath of that opening image. We see the reality of the situation. Crocodile is monologuing about how everything is going to his plan, how the rebellion and the royal army will clash at Alubarna and wipe each other out. And we see his hook. It's not a flesh wound. It went straight through Luffy's chest.
And crucially, straight through the big water bottle Luffy was carrying on his back. That's the detail. For a second, you just feel your stomach drop. This is it. How does he come back from this? We see Crocodile's smug, victorious face. He believes it's over. He's already thinking about the next phase of his plan.
Crocodile certainly doesn't think he can come back. He's gloating. He's explaining the genius of his plan, how he'll be hailed as the country's savior. It's classic villain monologue stuff. But then he feels something on his arm. A drip.
The water from the punctured bottle is leaking out, running down Luffy's body and dripping onto Crocodile's sand arm. We see it so clearly, just one little drip sound effect, but it changes everything.
And that is all Luffy needed. One single point of contact where Crocodile's Logia power is nullified. One tiny opening. Crocodile's own attack, the one that should have sealed his victory, created the very weakness he was trying to avoid. The irony is poetic.
He's half dead. He's been dehydrated, poisoned, and now he's been impaled. He should be unconscious, if not dead. And the first instant he gets an opening, he takes it. He just reaches out and grabs Crocodile's arm. No hesitation. Pure instinct.
The look on Crocodile's face is priceless. It's not fear, it's utter disbelief. He cannot comprehend how Luffy is even conscious, let alone fighting back. You can see the gears turning in his head. This is impossible. My calculations were perfect. This variable does not compute.
Crocodile is a planner, a schemer. He thinks 10 steps ahead. He's like a chess grandmaster. Luffy doesn't play chess. He just flips the board over and punches you in the face. Crocodile can't understand someone who runs on pure, indomitable will.
And then Luffy does more than just grab him. He breaks his arm, just shatters the bone inside the sand. You get this sickening crack sound effect. It's a shocking moment of violence. It proves that with water, Luffy can not only touch him, he can hurt him. Badly.
That's the thing that makes Luffy so terrifying to these villains. It's not just that he's strong, it's that the world runs out of ways to put him down, and he just keeps coming. He redefines what is possible through sheer stubbornness. That arm break is a statement. You are not untouchable.
But Crocodile is still a warlord. He's not a pushover like Buggy or Krieg. He recovers from the shock almost instantly. The disbelief turns to pure, unadulterated rage. He tears his hook free and just throws Luffy's body away.
Right into a pit of quicksand. It's so brutal. No final words, no dramatic finish. He doesn't even look at him. He just discards him like trash and leaves him to be buried alive. To Crocodile, Luffy is no longer a threat, just an annoyance that has been dealt with. It shows his supreme arrogance.
And we see him sink. He goes deeper and deeper under the sand. His hand reaches up, and then it too is gone. From Crocodile's perspective, the fight is over. The nuisance has been dealt with. He turns his back and walks away to oversee the final stage of his plan.
It's a dark, dark moment. It really feels like a loss. We, the audience, know Luffy isn't going to die here, but Oda does everything in his power to make us believe he might. This isn't a shonen trope defeat. This feels like a genuine final end, which makes the cuts to the other characters even more impactful. We go to Rain Base next.
And we find Smoker and Tashigi in Rain Base. He's essentially ordering her to leave. He's recognized that their official marine authority is meaningless here.
He tells her to go straight to Alubarna by herself, but the line that got me was when he tells her to do whatever she feels is her own justice there.
That's a massive turning point for both of them. Smoker, who has lived by the book of marine justice his whole career, is acknowledging that the book doesn't apply here. The situation is is too corrupt, too broken. The world government is implicitly backing a warlord who is destroying a member nation. The system has failed.
He's telling Tashigi to stop being a subordinate and start thinking for herself. Her entire character up to this point has been about following orders and upholding a very rigid, idealized form of justice. Smoker is pushing her out of the nest. He's forcing her to look at this disaster and decide what she, personally, believes is the right thing to do, regardless of marine code.
He's effectively giving her permission to work with pirates, if that's what her conscience dictates. For a marine like Smoker, that's a monumental step. He's seen that the Straw Hats, for all their chaos, are trying to save the country, while the system he serves is letting it burn. His worldview is cracking right open.
And then he just drives off, leaving her to it. He tells her to watch closely how this place will end up, whether it gets destroyed or not. He's not abandoning his post, he's becoming an observer. He knows the world government's version of events is wrong, and he wants Tashigi to witness the truth for herself. He's choosing to witness the real history, not the one that will be written in official reports.
It's fascinating. He's starting his own journey of disillusionment, one that will define his character for a long time to come. He's a good man trapped in a flawed system, and this is the moment he starts to realize just how flawed it is.
It's just incredible character work for a Marine. He's not an antagonist here. He's just a man with his own code trying to navigate a system he's realizing is flawed. He's complex, and I love that Oda is giving him this depth.
From there, we get a montage of all the forces moving toward Alubarna. It's like watching a tidal wave build. We see the rebels, a huge force of them, riding hard across the desert, with Koza at the lead vowing to destroy the kingdom to save it.
The tragedy of Koza is just heartbreaking. He's so pure in his intention. He genuinely believes he is fighting to save the people from a corrupt king. He's the hero of his own story, but he's a pawn in Crocodile's. The shot of him determined and furious is gut-wrenching, because you know his righteous anger is aimed at the wrong target.
And in the palace, the royal soldiers are getting ready for battle. They're not evil, they're just soldiers defending their king in their home, who they don't know is already out of the picture. They're just as manipulated as the rebels.
They're bracing for an attack from their own countrymen. Citizens are running for safety, grabbing their children. The whole country is about to explode into a civil war where both sides are innocent, and the only villain is watching from the wings, ready to take the prize. It's a masterclass in building tension.
And then we get the reveal of where the king is, the man at the center of this entire conflict.
Yeah, Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas are just sitting with a bloody and captured cobra. It's so jarring. You expect him to be in some deep, dark dungeon guarded by Mr. One, but no, he's just out in the open with these two absolute weirdos.
The two of them are just chattering away, being their bizarre selves, while the king of an entire nation is their prisoner. It perfectly captures the grotesque nature of Baroque works. These powerful, high-ranking officer agents are also deeply, deeply strange people.
Mr. Four, the slow-talking giant with the cannon dog that sneezes exploding baseballs, and Miss Merry Christmas, the short, mole-like woman who tunnels underground and insults him constantly, these are the people who have brought down a government. It's absurd and terrifying. It highlights how Crocodile uses these eccentric, powerful individuals as tools, uncaring of their personalities as long as they get the job done.
And Cobra's internal thoughts are just devastating. He's watching his country tear itself apart, begging everyone to stop, completely powerless to do anything about it. He's the one person who could stop the war with a single sentence, and he's been silenced, forced to watch his life's work and his people's lives be destroyed.
Everyone is coming to Alubarna, the people who hate the fight, the people who are fighting, the people who started the fight, and the people trying to stop it. It's the ultimate boiling point. Every single plot thread is now aimed squarely at this one city.
And after all of that weight, all of that impending tragedy, after seeing Luffy buried alive and a country on the brink of self-destruction, we cut back to the quicksand.
Back to where Luffy was buried. It's silent. You think we're just seeing his final resting place. We see a shot of undisturbed sand. The sense of finality is immense.
And then a head just pops out of the sand. It's not a dramatic emergence, it's almost comedic, like a Looney Tunes character popping out of a hole.
And with the last of his strength, after everything that's happened, Luffy just yells out that he's hungry. Meat!
It's the most Luffy moment possible. After being poisoned, dehydrated, impaled through the chest, and buried alive, his primary, overriding concern is that he needs a snack.
It is. It's so ridiculous and it's so perfect. It doesn't erase the danger or the damage. He's still in mortal peril. He's still at the bottom of a sandpit, grievously wounded. But it's a statement. You can impale him, poison him, and bury him alive, but you cannot break his spirit, his fundamental nature, his simple, straightforward desires. They're invincible. That single-minded drive is his greatest weapon.
It's a glimmer of hope in an otherwise incredibly bleak chapter. The will of D is not so easily extinguished. It's a refusal to accept defeat on a metaphysical level. His body might be broken, but his essence, the core of who he is untouched. And the core of who he is a guy who really loves meat.
Speaking of will, I just gotta say, seeing Oda's author comment this week was a classic. He's warning people not to put the One Piece Grand Battle Game disc into a CD player.
Oh, I remember this because old PlayStation discs had a data track and then regular audio tracks. If you put it in a CD player, it would try to play the data as noise, and then you'd get to the game's soundtrack.
Exactly. And he says, especially the second track. He's such a troll. He knows telling people not to do something is the surest way to get them to do it. It's just a fun little reminder of the era this chapter came out in, the good old PS1 days. A little bit of fourth wall breaking fun.
A bit of levity before we dive back into the impending civil war. It's very much in the same spirit as Luffy's final line in the chapter.
Right. So, that's chapter 179. Luffy is down but not out. A king is captured and all armies are marching on Alubarna. Bro, this is getting serious. The chessboard is set and Crocodile is about to declare checkmate.
The calm before the storm is officially over. This is the beginning of the end of the Arabasta saga.
For sure. Okay, so much is about to happen. I'm genuinely curious what everyone thinks the first clash in Alubarna will be. Will it be the rebels versus the army? Will the Straw Hats run into Baroque Works first? Let us know your theories in the comment section below. We'd love to read them.
I'm very interested to see those. All right, predictions for chapter 180. I'll go first. I think Nico Robin is going to be the one to find Luffy in the quicksand.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. She was in the area. She saw Crocodile leave. The timing would be perfect. But would she actually help him? She's the vice president of Baroque Works, Crocodile's number 2. Helping the number 1 enemy of the organization seems like a pretty bad career move.
That's the question. Her motives are still completely opaque. She helped him get to the tomb, but she works for Crocodile. She seems to be playing her own game entirely. I predict she pulls him out of the sand, and we are given absolutely no explanation as to why, leaving us even more confused about her allegiance. She'll do it with that same enigmatic smile, give him his hat back, and just walk away.
I love a good mystery, so I'm here for that. My first prediction is that we're going to see Crocodile arrive in Alubarna. He thinks Luffy is dead, the king is captured, it's time for the final phase. I think he is going to publicly reveal his grand villainous plan to the entire city. He's not going to hide in the shadows anymore.
That feels right. He's a performer. He has an immense ego. He would want an audience for his masterpiece. He'll stand before the palace and present himself as the nation's savior, probably by framing the captured King Cobra for all the country's problems.
Exactly, the grand reveal. My second prediction is a darker one. I think that sandstorm Crocodile summoned is going to hit Yuba. We're going to see Toto's brand new oasis, his symbol of hope, get completely buried and erased by Crocodile's power, right before his eyes.
That's brutal. That would be just devastating, both for Toto and for the reader. But it would be an incredibly effective way to show the stakes and the true evil they're up against. It would establish that there are no small victories against this man. He stomps out every last ember of hope.
It's the kind of gut punch Oda is so good at delivering. It has to get darker before the dawn.
And seeing Toto's life's work for the last few years get wiped out in seconds, that's dark.
I agree. It's very much an Oda style for this arc. For my second prediction, I'll focus on Tashigi. I think she will arrive in Alubarna and immediately run into one of the Baroque Works officer agents, maybe Mr. One and Miss Doublefinger, and she'll be forced to fight, testing her new resolve.
She's been given this new freedom by Smoker, and I think Oda will waste no time putting it to the test. A trial by fire for her new justice. I like it. Will she be able to stand up to an opponent that powerful on her own? Especially Mr. One, the man made of blades? That's a swordsman's nightmare. It'd be a perfect test for her.
It would force her to define what her justice really means in a life or death situation. Does she fight to protect the citizens, to uphold the law, or for her own pride as a swordswoman? It would be a great character moment.
Man, I can't wait to see what happens. This is peak One Piece right here. The stakes have never been higher. We'll see if we're right next time. Thanks for listening to Inherited Dawn.
Until then, keep an eye on the horizon.